for Dodger baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the St. Louis Cardinals. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Friday evening to you, wherever you may be. We're getting ready for Game 2 of the 4-game series with the Birds in one of the great rivalries in all of sports. Since 1900, it's pretty hard to imagine how these teams have played against each other. The Dodgers have beaten the Cardinals 1,017 times, but the Cardinals have beaten the Dodgers 1,015 times. So after all those years, 2 games separating 2 marvelous organizations, and they're at it again tonight. On the mound for the Cardinals, Carlos Martinez went 7 innings, allowed just 1 hit last time out against the Dodgers. He comes with a record of 5 wins, 2 losses, 1-1 in his young career against the Dodgers. On the mound for the Dodgers, Brett Anderson, he allowed 2 runs, and the Cardinals and Martinez beat him last time out. He is 0-1 this year, 1-1 in his career, and against the league, 2 wins and 3 losses. The 2 teams are going in opposite directions, at least for the moment. The Cardinals are hot. They've won 3 straight. Should they win tonight, they will have won 10 of the last 12. The Dodgers, on the other hand, have lost 2 in a row at home. Should they lose tonight, it would mean they have a 3-game losing streak at home for the first time since August of last year, when they were swept by the Brewers. Either way, it's going to be a dandy. We've got a good ball game and a whole lot more coming up right after this. by Disneyland. Get ready to be dazzled during the Disneyland Resort Diamond Celebration, happening now with spectacular new entertainment and more. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Friday evening to you, wherever you may be. We're at Dodger Stadium on a lovely evening, a canopy of blue overhead. The only misgivings we have are those games when we can't see our mountains out there back of center field. We can see them somewhat in silhouette, but they seem to be pretty much covered with haze, which is better than seeing them covered with snow at this time of the year. So meanwhile, Mike Matheny and the Cardinals have arrived. They won last night. They've won 3 in a row, and they're 6.5 games in front of the Pittsburgh Pirates. For the Cardinals, they'll stack up this way. Colton Wong at second base and Matt Carpenter at third. Matt Holliday in left field. Johnny Peralta at short. Randall Grichuk will be in center field. Mark Reynolds at first base. Yadier Molina, the catcher. Jason Hayward in right field. Carlos Martinez on the mound. On the mound for the Dodgers, Brett Anderson making his 11th start as a Dodger. That's the most for Anderson since back in 2011 when he started 13 games for the Oakland A's. So for Brett Anderson, he pitched very well in St. Louis. He allowed a first-inning 2-run home run to Johnny Peralta, and that's all. But that's all Carlos Martinez needed to beat him. So Colton Wong will start it off. The second baseman hitting .310, 6 home runs, 25 RBIs, and the first pitch down and away, ball 1. We can also add a little spice to the meeting. The Giants have just defeated Philadelphia 5-4. Here's the 1-0 pitch on the way. Slicing fly ball going foul down the line. That Giant game, Buster Posey broke a 4-4 tie with a 7th-inning home run to give Tim Lincecum his 6th win. Tim is now 6-3. And by the way, the Giant bullpen pitched 3 innings of 1-hit shutout relief. The next pitch to Wong, up and in, and that runs the count, 2 balls and 1 strike. 66 degrees, no appreciable wind, maybe a slight breeze every now and then. And the 2-1 pitch, change up, chopper up the middle. On the run is Jimmy Rollins to throw him out. So Colton Wong taps to short, and just like that, 1 away. Brett Anderson, in looking at the difference between April and May, it's startling. Earned run average in April about 5.5. In May, less than 2.5. The opposition 50 points less in May than they hit in April. He has 7 strikeouts per 9 innings in May, 5 in April, and so it goes. And one other thing, he's been getting very tough run support and making it work. His first pitch now to Matt Carpenter, in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Another thing about Brett Anderson, in May he's had 28 strikeouts. In April, only 11. Strike 1 pitch on the way. Fastball golfed wide of first. On it is Gonzalez. Hangs it in a foot race, and it's just in time. Nice play by Brett Anderson because Carpenter was really running down the line. Number 7, Matt Holliday. So 2 down in the first inning. Take a look at the Dodgers defensively with the leather, and they shape up this way. Gonzalez and Kike Hernandez at second. That means Howie Kendrick's knee still a little stiff and sore. Jimmy Rollins at short. Alberto Callaspo at third. Scott Schebler, more about him later. He's just been called up from Oklahoma City. Jock Peterson, Andre Ethier in the outfield. Yasmani Grandal behind the plate. Matt Holliday checking in, batting .317. 3 home runs, 25 runs batted in, and takes a breaking ball low, ball 1. Holliday last night looked like he might have lost the base hit. He rounded second, hesitated, didn't look at Jose Oquendo. Instead, he stopped and went back to second base, and at the time, it looked like the frustration of Oquendo meant that the Cardinals lost a possible run. 2-0 pitch, high and away, ball 3. So our guess, like most, was that Matt lost sight of the ball. The reason he stopped, thought about it, and went back to second, he said he thought he perhaps missed the bag. The next pitch runs the count to 3-1. Meanwhile, he has to look for Oquendo with binoculars. Jose way down the line. The 3-1 pitch to Matt is taken low and inside, ball 4. So Holiday with 2 down gets the walk.
Shortstop, number 27.
And that'll bring up Johnny Peralta. Johnny Peralta hit that 2-run home run to actually beat Anderson in St. Louis. He has been red hot. You know, the Cardinals have won 9 of the last 11. And in the last 10 games, Peralta is one of the big reasons. Hitting over 400 during the stretch. Johnny takes high, ball 1. 1-0 they count. So Peralta hitting in the money spot last night. He was walked intentionally. He had 3 hits, and they finally got him to ground out his last at bat. Hitting after Peralta is Randall Griffith, the center fielder. 1 ball and no strikes. Anderson set, looks at first, flips the next one in there at the knees for a strike, and they count 1 ball and 1 strike. Interesting with Brett Anderson working on Peralta. He has struggled, oddly enough, with 2 outs. The next pitch is high, 2-1 to count. With nobody out, the opposition hitting .211. With 1 out, 300, and with 2 out, 343. So he's having some trouble getting that 3rd out. Red ready, left-handed deals, little ground ball to the right side, waiting for it is Hernandez, and throws him out. No runs, no hits. There was a walk and a man left. And at the end of half an inning, Cardinals nothing, Dodgers coming up. Inning with the Dodgers coming up, and Don Mattingly's card has the following names on it. Jock Peterson leading off in center field, Jimmy Rollins at short, Adrian Gonzalez at first, and Yasmani Grandal behind the plate. Andre Ethier in right field, Alberto Callaspo at third base, Scott Schiebler in left field, and more about him in a little while. Kike Hernandez at second base, and Brett Anderson on the mound. On the mound, Carlos Martinez out of the Dominican, from Puerto Plata in the Dominican. Back in 2010, he was pitching under the name as Carlos Matias and signed with the Cardinals as a free agent for a lot of money. Peterson takes a strike and they count 0-1. Previously, Martinez had a deal with the Red Sox as a shortstop, but that deal was suspended because of the fact he was using another name. Peterson sprays one foul down the line, and they count 0-2. You know, they're talking about Jock Peterson's home runs and the length of them. Well, Giancarlo Stanton hit one tonight, 484 feet at Coors Field. Strike 2 pitch, check swing, they look, no swing, 1-2. Peterson's 480-foot home run at Coors this week. So Stanton hit one 4 feet longer. Stanton now has 8 career home runs in the 15 games at Coors, and meanwhile Peterson takes strike 3 and down he goes. 1 away. We can take a look at the Cardinals defensively, and they don't usually beat themselves. Mark Reynolds and Colton Wong, Johnny Peralta and Mike Carpenter, and then you have Matt Holliday, Randall Grichuk, Jason Hayward in the outfield, Yadier Molina behind the plate. So 1 away, bottom of the first inning, no score. Rollins hitting .213. Swings, hits a sharp ground ball to short, but right at Peralta, who throws him out easily. And we have 2 down in the first inning. Dodgers have to shake themselves, especially when they're playing the Cardinals and or the Giants. We just mentioned the Giants won. Of the 13 games that the Dodgers have played against the Cardinals and the Giants, the Dodgers have lost 10 of the 13. So here's Adrian Gonzalez. Justin Turner gets a night off tonight. And the first pitch to Adrian on the outside corner for a strike, and the count 0-1. Carlos Martinez turns and comes back with a fastball down and away. Earlier in his pitching career, Martinez was known for throwing 97, 98, but the ball didn't move that much. He's a better pitcher at 94 and 95. He's outside again, and that time at 96. He's an even 6, 180-pounder, so he's not particularly big as major league pitchers go. He throws out the ball and gets a new one. Martinez has been magnificent with 2 out and runners in scoring position. The toughest moment in the game. Fastball is high, ball 3, 3-1. Martinez with 2 outs and runners in scoring position. The batters against him are 0 for 18. Fastball sprayed foul down the left field line. 3-2 the count. Martinez, with all of that, is only 23 years old. He'll be 24 near the end of September. So the right-hander ready in his 3-2 pitch. Gonzalez takes way off the plate. It goes to the backstop for ball 4. Martinez is as good as his control. I guess you could say that for just about anybody else. He has walked 28 and he has struck out 64. Well, here's Yasmani Grandal. Kind of an interesting note about Grandal. He has 5 home runs. 4 of the 5 home runs have been hit while he's catching Brett Anderson. Hitting .285, and Grandal, switch hitter, batting left-handed, as he always does. Doesn't point the bat at the pitcher, but he holds it straight out in front, and he's going to drive one into the gap in left center. It will drop for a base hit. Stopping at second base is Gonzalez. So Yasmani Grandal, a single into the gap. And we have first and second, 2 down, and the batter Andre Ethier. It was a low fastball around the knees, and Grandal just lifted it and dropped it into left center. 2 on, 2 out, and here is Andre Ethier. Andre Ethier doing a great job in right field, hitting .295, 7 home runs, 22 runs batted in. Ethier checks. Martinez at the belt, looks back at second, and the pitch to Andre swung on and missed, and the count 0-1. Andre Ethier 3 for 8 in the pass against Martinez. So that's a .375 batting average. Gonzalez has to keep an eye on Peralta for the left-hand hitter up. The shortstop moves way over, almost behind him. A drive to right on the run is Jason Hayward to flag it for the out. So Ethier hit that right on the button, but right at Hayward. No runs, 1 hit, 2 left, and at the end of an inning, no score. Brett Anderson retired the side on 3 ground balls in the first inning. He did give up a walk. And now here come the Cardinals. Randall Grichuk, followed by Mark Reynolds, and then Yadier Molina. Randall Grichuk will forever be known as the fellow who was taken by the Angels 1 pick ahead of Mike Trout. And he hits a long fly ball, but playable to left center. Moving over is Schebler to make the catch for the out. The young Scott Schebler, playing in his first major league game, handles that long fly ball. I think he was talking about the fact he couldn't hear Jock Peterson because of the roar of the crowd. So Peterson and Schebler working together on a ball hit to the gap, and we have 1 out, and Mark Reynolds coming up. Reynolds, the veteran third baseman for many years, playing first base now that Matt Adams is down. Reynolds with a little 5-game hitting streak. 3 home runs, 16 runs batted in. Brett Anderson ready, bends a big curveball in there for a strike, and they count 0-1. Reynolds 1 for 2 in the past against Anderson. Now the strike 1 pitch gets away from Grandal. You know what happened tonight? Something that we've talked about for as long as they've been playing this game. We have an ambidextrous pitcher actually pitch with both arms in a major league game. The pitch of the plate foul back. Pat Venditte, the first full-time switch pitcher in the modern era, and he made his big league debut. He pitched for the A's. The A's lost 4-2, but he did very well. Made 28 pitches over 2 scoreless innings. He entered the game in the 7th inning. Now understand, first of all, he had to have a tricky glove with 2 thumbs so he could comfortably move it from one hand to the other. He got a ground ball pitching left-handed from Brock Holt. He turned around, threw right-handed, and Hanley Ramirez got a base hit. 2-2 pitches low. Then he faced Mike Napoli pitching right-handed, and Napoli hit into a double play. I remember, and it's appropriate that he should break in Boston against the Red Sox, because up until now, the only one I ever heard about who was truly an ambidextrous pitcher was a Red Sox pitcher. Pitch fouled away by Reynolds again. His name was Dave Ferris, like the wheel. Dave Boo Ferris pitched for the Red Sox, but he only pitched right-handed. But in his minor league days, he pitched with both arms. So tonight, Pat Venditte finally comes in. We have a switch pitcher in the big leagues. Wow. Here's the 3-2 pitch coming up to Reynolds, and that's off the plate, ball 4. So tonight, 1 for the books in Boston. Say, friends, we are excited to announce that starting Tuesday, Sportsnet LA will be available to charter customers. For informational channel listings, log on to sportsnetla.com. 1 out, a walk to Reynolds. Here is Yadier Molina. Molina 0 for 3 in the past against Anderson. Yadier takes high, ball 1, 1-0. Molina has found a home here at Dodger Stadium. In his career, he has hit .327 here. Molina probably drives it to left. Schebler right there to handle that one. Hit right at him. And we have 2 down. And the batter would be Jason Hayward. The young man by the name of Scott Schebler, he spells that Schebler. Schebler is from Iowa, from Boone, Iowa, lives in Solon, Iowa. And we'll have more to talk about him when he comes up to hit, except to say he's well put together. He's 6'1" and a 205-pounder. So 2 down. And Jason Hayward checking in. Anderson, slow curveball, but he misses with that. 1 ball and no strikes. 3 ground balls in the first inning. 2 fly balls in the second. Hayward with a 7-game hitting streak. Left-hand hitter looks, and it's in for a strike. Fastball in on the hands and on the inside corner. Hayward not only with a 7-game streak, hitting .375 during the streak. Overall batting average, .251. Reynolds at first as Haywood swings, fouls that pitch, and Yasmani Grandal going to have to walk it off. The Grandal taking that foul ball, bounced up and got him, staggered. He almost fell down, used his hand rather than fall on his right side. Remember, he was out for 7 days because of the concussion rule, so the Dodgers will be watching him very carefully. Another fellow who will be watching him very carefully, and that would be not A.J. Ellis, but it would be Mike Matheny. Matheny, the catcher for years with the Cardinals, finally had to give it up because of concussions. 1 ball and 2 strikes the count. Left-hander Anderson flips it over to first, and Reynolds back on the bag. Reynolds stolen 1, been caught once. Mark short lead held on by Gonzalez. Hernandez playing a foot out on the grass at second base. 1-2 pitch on the way. Haywood swings, doesn't get it, and down he goes. No runs, no hits, a man left, and at the end of an inning and a half, no score. Cardinals and Dodgers. Dodgers will have Alberto Callaspe, Scott Schebler, and then Kike Hernandez. Carlos Martinez about ready to go to work with a record of 5-2, 1-0 against the Dodgers this year, and he's a little high with the fastball for ball 1. Callaspe, switch hitter, wearing the uniform formerly used by Juan Uribe. Callaspe will take low, so the count's his way. 2 balls and no strikes. Callaspe 5'9", but a stocky 200-pounder. Hits from either side of the plate. Martinez comes back high again, ball 3. You know how pitchers are. They get 4 days rest or 5 days rest, and it's very interesting is to see what 1 day means. His pitch is strike to Callaspe. On 4 days rest, Martinez is 2-1, but an earned run average a little over 5. On 5 days rest, he's 3-1 and an earned run average of 1. Well, it should be duly noted he is pitching on 4 days rest tonight, and he promptly comes up with his second walk.
55, Scott Schebler.
So Scott Schebler coming up, and here he is. Believe it or not, in high school he played 5 sports. Not only baseball, he played football, he played basketball, he played soccer, and he ran track. He's quite an athlete. Left-hand batter. Martinez delivers, line drive, base hit on the first major league pitch that he sees. And the Dodgers have runners at first and second and nobody out. Immediately the Cardinals give the ball to Lorenzo Bundy, he'll flip it into the dugout, and welcome aboard Scott Schebler. A line drive single to left, and the Dodgers in business now for Kike Hernandez. Fastball that seemed to be running away from him, and he just went with it and singled sharply into left field. So that's over with. Now he's got 10 to 15 years to continue. 2 on, nobody out. Kike Hernandez in there, and Martinez sends a fastball low, ball 1. So that's the thing with Martinez, his control, and it's not with him, at least right now. He has walked 2, he's given up 2 hits. Dodgers trying to get on the board here in the second inning, no score. 1-0 pitch on the way. Fastball line to right field, that's a base hit. Hayward plays it on a hop, and the bases are loaded with nobody out, and Brett Anderson coming up. So it shows you what will happen. The last time the Dodgers saw Carlos Martinez, he allowed 1 hit in 7 innings. So far tonight, he's walked 2, given up 3 hits, and he has loaded the bases with nobody out. So Brett Anderson certainly trying to help his own cause now. So Aspo walk, Schebler singled, Hernandez singles, and here is Anderson. Martinez hands it aside, now set right at the belt. Young right-hander ready and delivers, and Anderson fouls it back. By the way, looking out there at Scott Schebler, the 15th player to be a part of the Dodgers and Oklahoma City this year. He was drafted in the 26th round. That means he was the number 802 pick. Anderson takes a strike. Of course, back in 2010, the Dodgers also drafted, among others, Zach Lee, 28th pick. Jock Peterson, the 352nd pick. Here's the strike 2 pitch on the way. Ball 1. The latest draft pick to play for the Dodgers out of the 62nd round. He was the 1,390th pick, believe it or not, in the 1988 draft. Mike Piazza. Here's the 1-2 pitch on the way. Swung on and missed. Anderson does not hurt himself by banging into a double play. He strikes out, 1 down, and Jock Peterson coming up. That would be the second strikeout for Carlos Martinez. And now here's young Jock. Peterson last night robbed of an extra base hit in right center field by Jason Hayward. Doubled off the left field wall and then struck out and grounded out. Struck out first time tonight. So Aspo, Schebler, and Hernandez all out on the lines. Martinez set at the belt. Right-hander ready, fastball, and that's low, ball 1, 1-0. Peterson has 1 grand slam. You might have been here. He did it against Evan Marshall and the D-backs. That was hooray, hooray, the 1st of May at Dodger Stadium. 1 ball and no strikes. The count to young Jock. Martinez ready and comes back, and that's low out of the dirt, backhanded by Molina. 2-0 the count. So Martinez struggling so far. It's not hurt him, but he's making a lot of pitches. He's doubled up. He made 14 pitches in the 1st inning, and he's made 14 so far. So Molina out to talk to him. One of the things, and the thing he knows about it, the fact that Martinez usually follows a Cardinal win with a victory of his own. He has 4 following a Cardinal victory. And the Cardinals usually win when Martinez pitches. They are 8-2 in his start. But he also can be wild. They walk over 11% of the hitters when he's off his game, and he's already walked 2 so far. 2-0 pitch on the way to Jock Peterson, taken low, ball 3. So he is struggling, and as we said, he struggles on 4 days rest, not on 5. 3-0 count to Jock Peterson. Martinez delivers, taken for a strike. Martinez hanging around 95 with all of his fastballs. Three and one the count. Back comes Martinez with a fastball high for ball 4. Second walk in the inning, third walk in the game, and the Dodgers pick up a run. Everybody moves up 90 feet. Callaspo comes in to score. Schebler goes to third. Taking second is Hernandez and Peterson at first. So the Cardinals are a bit distressed with Martinez struggling. Darren Lilliquist out to the mound, the pitching coach for the Cardinals, talking to Carlos, trying to get him to settle down. Meanwhile, two veterans talking very briefly about Martinez. Gonzalez talking to Jimmy Rollins. Another thing about Carlos Martinez, when he is off his game, he is also a victim of wild pitches. And he's already made 4 wild pitches this year. His last start against the Dodgers, he had 2 strikes on 18 of the 25 hitters he faced. So that's a far distance from tonight. And he's low, ball 1 to Jimmy Rollins. So Schebler at third, Hernandez at second, Peterson at first, 1 out. Dodgers leading 1-0 in the second inning. Carlos Martinez struggling. Right-hander at the belt. Now the 1-0 pitch. Ground ball hard. Backhanded by Reynolds. Down to short. Back to first. Double play. Wow, what a play. Great start by Mark Reynolds. He got it down to Peralta. And Peralta got it back to the pitcher covering. Wow. And Reynolds started and took an extra base hit away on a ball that was really rushed. So a big 3-6-1 play, and they're out of the inning, and the Dodgers lead 1-0. Have been more except for that double play. Rollins ripped it. It's backhanded by Mark Reynolds down to Peralta, the shortstop, and back to the pitcher covering, and Martinez was in the right spot at the right time. Right now, Carlos at the plate takes a curveball for a strike, and the count 0-1. Here's a couple of hits, 2 of them. Takes an off-speed pitch away, and a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Interesting that Martinez got out of a bases-loaded jam. The 1-1 fastball hit out in front of the plate. Randolph picks it up, has to hurry, and nips him at first base. Well, Martinez thrown out. Nice play by Grandal, although Martinez thought he had the play beaten, but it was not that close. So 1 away. The comparison we were going to make is the fact that Martinez got out of a bases loaded jam. Anderson is yet to pitch with the bases loaded this year. So 1 down, and here's Colton Wong, grounded to short in the first inning. Dodgers lead 1-0, top of the third. Wong takes low, ball 1. Colton from Hilo, Hawaii. Left-hand hitter waiting. Anderson back, slow breaking ball for a strike. 1-2 the count. Or check me 1-1. Wong with Matt Carpenter waiting on deck. Then the fastball is promptly hit up the middle by the diving Hernandez. He never had a play. Wong a big turn and holds on. So after 2 off-speed pitches, Anderson tries to get a fastball by Wong, who probably grinds it up the middle. And that'll bring up Matt Carpenter, who grounded out in the first inning. Carpenter is a terrific player and just seems to rise to even higher talents against the Dodgers. He's a fellow who, among other things, had Tommy John surgery when he was in college. As we mentioned last night, he does not wear gloves, and he really gave Clayton Kershaw some nightmares. The pitch, ball 1, 1-0. Against left-hand pitching, the Cardinals and the Dodgers, it was amazing what the Cardinal left-hand batters did. They hit .366 against the left-hand Dodger pitchers. 1 ball and no strikes. Carpenter did the most damage. He swings, pulls one to first. Gonzalez on the bag, tag necessary, and they get it at second. As soon as Gonzalez stepped on the bag, that meant Rollins had to put the ball on the runner, and a double play pops up to get the Dodgers out of the jam. Adrian up with it on the bag, throw down, which is not so easy with the runner coming, and Rollins puts the dag, and it's still 1-0 Dodgers. One nothing Dodgers, bottom of the third. We were talking about Matt Carpenter and the playoffs against the Dodgers. He had 3 home runs and 7 RBIs, and no left-hand batter in playoff or World Series history had ever homered in 3 straight games against left-hand pitchers. But he did it against Clayton Kershaw, J.P. Howell, and Hyun-Jin Ryu. This time he hits into the double play, and the man who started it, Adrian Gonzalez, leads off in the bottom of the third. Adrian walked in the first inning. hitting .337. Fastball low, ball one, although looked more like a change by the time it got up there. 1 ball and no strikes to Gonzalez, followed by Grandal and then Ethier. Fastball low and in. So Martinez obviously not nearly as sharp right now than he was last time against the Dodgers. He's already walked 3, given up 3 hits and a run. The 2-0 pitch on the way to Adrian, way off the plate. So Martinez somehow or other is going to get it together, or he'll not be around too long, falling behind to every hitter. Here's the 3-0 pitch on the way, and that drops in nicely for a strike. 3-1. Dodgers trying to avoid a loss always, but especially the fact they would have a 3-game losing streak here at Dodger Stadium. Gonzalez fouls it away. They haven't lost 3 straight here since last August when the Brewers swept 3. Remember, they lost the last game with Atlanta 3-2, and then they lost last night to Michael Wacha. 3-2 pitch to Adrian Gonzalez. Swung on, ground ball to Reynolds on the line. He'll take it to the bag, and we have 1 away. Say, whatever you do, don't forget Tuesday at 7:10, the Dodgers and the D-backs. Be one of the first 40,000 fans in attendance. Receive a Jock Peterson t-shirt presented by Edmunds.com. For more information, go to Dodger.com/promotion. Yasmani Grandal singled in the first inning. Martinez into the windup, delivers, and it's fouled away. 0-1. So the rare time that Martinez is actually out in front of a hitter. Carlos turns, ready, and the strike 1 pitch on the way. High and away. Looked like a change. 1 ball and 1 strike. The 1-1 pitch on the way, and that's a strike. 1-2. The Cardinals usually score runs for Martinez. They're averaging a little more than 5 runs a game for him. The next pitch is on the outside corner. Strike 3 called. So Grandal caught looking. That would be the 3rd strikeout for Martinez. And the batter will be Andre Ethier. Dan Iasanya is the plate umpire. 13 years in the big leagues. Born in Connecticut, lives in Georgia. For Dan, he got a BA in English from the University of Connecticut. His first major league game, 1999, and he also did the 2012 World Series. Ethier takes a strike, 0-1. It was interesting that Ethier came up with 2 on in the first inning and 2 out. Martinez comes back 0-1, a little high. And we were talking about the fact that with 2 out and a runner in scoring position, the opposition was 0 for 18 with 11 strikeouts. Well, Ethier hit the ball hard, but he lined out to Haywood, so the opposition is now 0 for 19. The pitch in there for a strike, and the count 1-2. Remember, the run that the Dodgers did get came with 1 out, and it was a walk with the bases loaded. 1 run, 3 hits for the Dodgers, no runs, 1 hit for the Cardinals. Martinez 1-2 pitch on the way is swung on and missed. It was a pitch down and away, and Ethier went after it and becomes the 4th strikeout. So down go the Dodgers, and at the end of 3, Dodgers 1, Cardinals nothing. to you by the Dodge Challenger. With an EPA estimated 30 highway MPG, this car was made for driving in California. Visit Dodge.com today. And by Jack in the Box. Taste the new black pepper cheeseburger today, only at Jack in the Box. Fourth inning, 1-0 in favor of the Dodgers. Matt Holliday, Johnny Peralta, and Randy Grichuk in that order. Holliday, the big man in the number 3 slot, takes an off-speed pitch for a strike, and the count 0-1. Last year, among other things, he was the National League go-ahead RBI man. He had 31, and Dodger Adrian Gonzalez had 29. Game-winning RBIs, Holliday had 23, leading the majors. Adrian had 18. Chopper to shortstop, backhanded there, winding up as Rollins to throw him out. So we have one out in the fourth inning, and Johnny Peralta coming up.
27. Johnny
Peralta tapped out in the first inning. By the way, in looking at the ground balls and the fly balls, it reminds me of something from last night. First of all, I'll go way back to a story, a true story involving sports writers. One very famous, Jimmy Cannon, a columnist for the New York Post, pitching the dirt ball one. The other was a writer, and a fine writer, by the name of Leonard Coppett. And Leonard Coppett would really be in his own today with all the different graphs and everything else. Fly ball to right, Efi is going to run it down. 2 out. Anyway, Leonard Coppett was walking into Yankee Stadium with a big briefcase just bursting with pages. Cannon was typing, and someone said to Cannon, "What do you think Coppett has in his briefcase?" And without looking up, Cannon said, "Decimals," which was perfect for Leonard Coppett. Decimals. Well, decimals can be good, and if you miss them, you can really be, as my mother would call me, a real featherhead. Here's Grichuk, and he takes ball one. Last night, in talking about the dramatic change of ground balls and fly balls, I did it. I missed a decimal. The 1-0 pitch fouled away. So I was expounding about all the ground balls, and there were, I think I said 152 ground balls for every fly ball. Seems strange, but I remember I read it, so I went with it. Here's the 1-1 pitch. Swung on and missed 1-2. Well, close but no cigar, because it wasn't 152. Darned if it wasn't the decimal. 1.52. Next one swung on and missed, and we know that Grichuk is struck out, decimal or otherwise. So to those of you who said, "You got to be crazy," no, I'm just mistaken. Darn the decimal. And at the end of 3.5 innings, 1-0 Dodgers. Father's Day, June 21st, is a Sunday at 5 o'clock. The Dodgers and the Giants. And the first 40,000 fans in attendance receive a Father's Day barbecue set presented by Farmer John. So bring your gloves, join in a postgame catch on the field as well. For more information, go to Dodgers.com/promotions. Alberto Callaspo to lead it off in the fourth, 1-0 Dodgers. And Martinez first pitch high, so he's behind again to the umpteenth hitter. Callaspo walked and eventually came home on a walk in the second inning. Next pitch is lifted down the left field line. Holiday is there. Matt waiting and one-hands it. So one away here in the fourth inning. And the batter, Scott Schebler.
Number 55.
Schebler made his major league debut. The very first pitch he saw in the second inning. And the left-hand hitter checked in and whammo. Base hit. Looked like a running fastball. It had pretty good movement on it, running away. A.J. Ellis and other Dodgers take that ball and put it in the locker. A memorable moment for Scott Schebler. Big swing and a miss. 0-1 the count. Schebler is 24 years old. He'll be 25 in October. Next one is strike 0-2. Boy, he's quite an athlete. 5 sports in high school. Again, baseball, football, basketball, soccer, and track. He takes off the plate. 1-2 the count. He was pretty sharp in track, too. And down he goes. So from the penthouse to the basement, welcome to the big leagues.
Number 14.
Schebler strikes out. That is the 5th strikeout for Martinez. Now the Dodgers have to start to worry. I mean, here's this young right-hander, wild as the March hare in the first 2 innings. And all of a sudden, he's now throwing strikes. Right-hander ready. Hernandez backs off on ball 1. 5 in a row retired by Carlos Martinez. A little cutter in there. 1-1. One and two. Martinez appears certainly to be settling down. One thing you can't do with him, you can't run on him. No one has even tried to steal a base this year against him. 2-2. Zero stolen bases. Wow. He's also had 3 ball games where he picked up a victory that he would have lost, only to have the bullpen come in and bail him out. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. 4th inning, 1-0 Dodgers. Just off the plate, 3-2. Late movement on those pitches. Fastball swung on and missed. Yadier calmly goes back and picks it up and throws him out. So look out now. Martinez has struck out a half a dozen all of a sudden, and as he walks off at the end of 4, it's 1-0 Dodgers. Mattingly. They'll bring you an inside look at the best moment of the week on and off the field. Don't miss Dodger Clubhouse Monday at 5:30 on Sportsnet LA. Well, Brett Anderson is doing it the hard way, in the sense he has fallen behind 9 batters on the first pitch, and yet he's retired 8 of those 9. He has given up 1 hit. Colton Wan single to center, and he'll be facing Mark Reynolds to start off the 5th. Big slow curveball, hack foul. 0-1 to Reynolds. Came up with that dazzling play on the ball hit by Jimmy Rollins with the bases loaded. Backhanded it, threw to short, return throw to the pitcher covering, and they had a textbook double play to get out of a mess in the 2nd inning. And Mark started it with the glove. 1 ball and 1 strike. Little chopper to third. Castro takes a nice hop. 1 away. Interesting, the last time that Brett Anderson faced the Cardinals, he gave up that 2-run home run in the 1st inning to Johnny Peralta. And otherwise, he was terrific, just 2 runs. But after the game, he said it was the worst stuff he had had in his entire major league career. He rated it D. He thought it was awful. And yet, he allowed only 2 runs. Ball 1. Yadier Molina lined out to left. He hit that ball right on the button, but right at Schebler. And this time he's going to hit one in front of Schebler for a base hit. So Molina, who, as we mentioned, in his career hitting .327 at Dodger Stadium, comes up with yet another hit. That's hit number 2 against Brett Anderson. In case you didn't know, Jonathan Neese, a pitcher, hit Hayward and broke his right jaw. Jason, ever since, wearing that protective covering, cover that whole side of his face. Slow, and ball 1. Of course, that's an element of the game you never hear talked about. The element of feel. 1 ball and no strikes. 1-1. Good fastball in on the hands at 90. Jason, 7-game hitting streak. When he started with Atlanta, it was opening day. He had had a very big spring training. Everybody couldn't wait to see him play. Ground ball to short. Back to get it is Rollins. They're going to get one. Throw to first. Not in time. Dodgers are going to get on the phone, check the videographer, and we'll see whether they protested or not. You can join the fun. What do you think? There's one. There's Kike's throw. Pretty hard to tell. Take another look from another angle. Very slow motion. Foot. Wow. Now they're nodding yes. Review it. Okay. The first base umpire, C.B. Buckner, was the one who made the call. Dale Scott is the crew chief, the third base umpire tonight. So it's under review. So we have a minute. We can talk about Jason Hayward. It was opening day in Atlanta. They couldn't wait to see him. He came up with a couple of men on base, got a huge round of applause, one of those welcome to the big leagues. And what did he do? He hit the first pitch over the center field fence for a 3-run home run. That was the way Jason Hayward broke into the big leagues. He's been somewhat of a disappointment, and you have to really measure your words when you're talking about that. But I guess they expected him to do so many great things that if he didn't do great things, well, then he just wasn't the player they thought he would be. Most home runs, he hit 18 for the Braves. Most RBIs, 72. Best batting average, 277. But never did what they thought he would do. They thought he was going to be a superstar. Well, he was traded, and now Atlanta has a pitcher who has set the league on fire in Shelby Miller. Well, Miller, last we checked, was #1 in ERA. And Hayward, meanwhile, is coming alive a little bit better in St. Louis. Well, we're stalling. That's what we're doing. We're just kind of chatting here while the officials make the decision. For the umpteenth time, freeze it. Now, is the ball in the glove? Now it is for sure. Is it in? And is the foot on or off? Yeah, well, we've shown you everything we have. Buckner and Dale Scott trying to get it right. That's the whole idea of this. The umpires, they don't feel embarrassed if they reverse the call. The big thing is get it right. Here's how tough it is. Watch. What do you think? What do you think? And it's a safe call, and so the inning will continue. Hayward runs very well, though hits into the force play.
Pitcher Carlos Martinez.
And that'll bring up the pitcher Carlos Martinez. And you might think, well, no big deal, but it is. It's very important to get the pitcher and end the inning. Big slow breaking ball for a strike. Because had Hayward hit into the double play, then Martinez would have led off the 6th inning, which would have been even better for the Dodgers. 0-2. Martinez with the bat. He has 2 hits, 21 at bats, and he has struck out 11 of the 21 at bats. Hayward at first, 2 out, doesn't figure to go anywhere. Foul ball. I mean, the last thing you'd want to do, you've already gotten a break instead of the double play. The last thing you'd want to do is to have Jason Hayward try to steal, be thrown out, and then they'd have to have Martinez start off the next inning, which is the last thing they want. 0-2. 1-2. Hayward, by the way, is a successful base stealer. He's stolen 6 out of 7. But again, it would be a poor percentage play to run him. 1-2 the count. All right, that'll do it. Martinez strikes out, no runs, 1 hit, 1 left. And at the end of 4.5 innings, it remains Dodgers 1, Cardinals 0. your Southern California Toyota dealers. Now, during Toyota's summer savings, you can save big on any 2015 Camry. And by Subway. Download the Subway Restaurants app and lose the weight when you pick up your order. It's Subway made simple. Bottom of the fifth inning, 1-0 Dodgers. By the way, to conclude the thought on Hayward and Shelby Miller, Shelby Miller's earned run average 1.89. Max Scherzer 1.85. So Shelby is number 2 in the National League in earned run average, which means there's more pressure on Hayward now in St. Louis. 1 ball and 1 strike. Anderson struck out. Then it'll be Peterson and Rollins. 1-2. Two balls and 2 strikes. Martinez wild in the second inning. Walked Glasgow, gave up singles to Schebler and Hernandez, and with the bases loaded and 1 out, walked Jock Peterson to force in the only run of the game. So if you just joined us, you are up to date. However, what you are missing is the complete turnaround from Martinez. After 2 very, very shaky innings, he has struck out 7. He is now retired 8 in a row. And Jock Peterson struck out and walked. His walk forcing in the only run. Peterson, the first Dodger to have 17 home runs. Gary Sheffield had 17 early, way back in 2000. Sheffield finished that year with 43. And a one-hopper backhanded by Peralta. Throw in the dirt, and a nice pick by Mark Reynolds. So, boy, Martinez is like a different pitcher. 9 in a row retired. Jimmy Rollins grounded out in the first and then ripped one. And instead of a base hit and maybe 2 RBIs, it was a double play. Backhanded by Reynolds, who started it. So Rollins hitting in tough luck, 0 for 2. Strike. Oh and 1. Now that was the kind of a pitch he made in the first 2 innings. Left-handers had given Martinez a bad time the last couple of years, a comebacker. So it's another ho-hum inning. He is now retired 10 in a row, and at the end of 5, it's 1-0 Dodgers. The Dodgers played the Yankees in the World Series and lost. In 1953, the Dodgers played the Yankees in the World Series and lost. So the Dodgers changed manager, and when they did, the New York papers all had the same thing. Walter who? Well, it was Walter Alston. He took over the club in 1954. They won 4 World Champions. They won 2,040 games and finally retired his number on this day in 1977. Six to nothing, 1-0 in favor of the Dodgers. Colton Wong to start it off. Strike. Interesting, Walter Alston, who wore number 24, managed the Dodgers for 23 years. Line drive foul. Yep, would have been nice if he had one more year. 24 would have matched up. He was a quiet man. He had one at bat in the big leagues and struck out against the Cardinal pitcher by the name of Lon Warnicki. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Bad ball. Wong goes after it. Down he goes. That would be the 4th strikeout for Brett Anderson. Martinez has struck out 7.
Third baseman, Matt Carpenter.
Matt Carpenter grounded to Gonzalez. Grounded to Gonzalez again, and that time Adrian started a double play. And a strike. No balls and 1 strike. Fly ball. Chebler's there. 2 down in the 6th inning. So the Dodgers have 1 run on 3 hits, and the run came over on a walk that forced it in. Meanwhile, the Cardinals have just 2 hits. And here's Holiday. Walk, grounded to short. Little chopper foul. 0-1 the count. Holiday, a marvelous player ever since he first came up to the Rockies back in 2004. 0-2. From Stillwater, Oklahoma. Went to Stillwater High School. He was a 7th round pick by Colorado. Holiday is a lifetime .306 hitter. Another quiet inning for Brett Anderson. Cardinals go 1-2-3, and we go to the bottom of the 6th inning. Hot dogs. It's 1-0 Dodgers. Enjoy two great American traditions, baseball and fireworks, July 4th. Dodgers and Mets. Then stay after the game to see the sky light up with a spectacular 4th of July fireworks show presented by Cirque du Soleil. For more information, go to Dodgers.com/promotions. Adrian Gonzalez, Yasmani Grandal, Andre Ethier. Gonzalez has walked and grounded out 0 for 1. 0-1. Brett Anderson might have had terrible stuff in his own words. The worst stuff I've ever had in the big leagues, he said. The last time he pitched against the Cardinals, and he only allowed 2 runs. Well, tonight he has been absolutely brilliant. He's made only 67 pitches in 6 innings, and he has 10 ground balls. Meanwhile, Martinez has done a complete about-face since the 2nd inning. 1-2. Since Peterson walked to force in the only run in the game, he's retired 10 in a row, and he has 7 strikeouts as Peterson looks on. 1-2. Fastball missed. Way off the plate. He had made 69 pitches. The 2nd inning was his problem inning. He made 19 pitches, gave up 2 singles and 2 walks, but nothing since. 3-2. And missed high and away. So that was the way he was pitching in the first 2 innings, not even close. So he's walked 4. He has struck out 7. He has given up 1 run. And here's Yasmani Grandal, single to center and struck out. Tomorrow night, Jaime Garcia and Clayton Kershaw. They're not worrying about Adrian Gonzalez stealing. Every now and then he'll pick your pocket, but not very often. Grandal trying to bunt. 0-1. He was not sacrificing. He was trying to bunt for a base hit. No balls and 1 strike to Yasmani. Hitting back of him, Andre Ethier. Mark Reynolds holding a corner on Gonzalez. Foul ball and the count 0-2. Martinez now has 74 strikeouts, 31 walks. He is averaging exactly 6 innings a game, and he's in that 6th inning right now. Got him. The Grandal strikes out a 2nd time. 8 strikeouts for Carmelo Martinez. Just picks up the corner. That's a great breaking ball. It looked outside, but I'm sure if Grandal goes back in the dugout and he's furious, he thinks it's a bad call by the umpire, but it was not. But here's Ethier. Yeah, he is hot. Yeah, work it off. And if he goes back and looks, he will see that pitch got the strike zone. 0-1 the count. 1-0 Dodgers. Back in the 2nd inning, Diaspo walk. Schebler, the rookie, single on the very first pitch he saw as a big league batter. And then Hernandez single to load up the bases. Anderson struck out, and Jock Peterson walked. Diaspo scoring, and that's it. Fly ball going foul, no play for Holiday. Still 0-2 to Andre. Hit the ball very hard in the first inning, lined out to right, and then last time up struck out. Oh, and 2. Fastball just missed. We'll look ahead in the 7th inning. The Cardinals will have Peralta, Grichuk, and Reynolds. And if anybody gets on, Molina. Went after what looked like a breaking ball almost in the dirt. So that would be the 9th strikeout for Carlos Martinez. Yep, it did wind up in the dirt. So the batter is Callaspo, who started the troubles in the 2nd inning with a walk and scored the run. Last time up, Callaspo flied to left. Fastball at 95. Callaspo has hit as many as 11 home runs in the big leagues. You certainly wouldn't call him a home run hitter, but he can surprise you every now and then off the plate. 1 year 11 and 1 year 10. Last year with the Oakland A's, he had 4. 1 ball and 1 strike. And pop foul out of play. By the way, I know that a discussion might have started. We were talking about the young pitcher with the Oakland A's who pitches both left-handed and right-handed. And finally, we have one in the major leagues. He made his debut, pitched 2 scoreless innings tonight against the Boston Red Sox. And 2 people somewhere out there are saying, well, wait a minute, supposing there's a switch hitter. Here's the 1-2 pitch. And a breaking ball got him. Strikeout number 10. The switch hitter has to declare himself whether he's hitting left or right, just in case that. Can you imagine what a comedy that would be? An ambidextrous pitcher and a switch hitter. And at the end of 6, it's 1-0 Dodgers. Meanwhile, what's ahead? Well, nothing more than Jaime Garcia and Clayton Kershaw tomorrow night, Lance Lynn and Zach Greinke Sunday at 5, and then the Arizona Diamondbacks for 3. So as I think it was Al Jolson once said, you ain't seen nothing yet. Just warming up early in June. Johnny Peralta grounded out, flied out as Greinke sitting quietly. Sunday he'll be center stage. 1 ball and 1 strike to Peralta. And sprayed down the line, foul out of play, 1-2. Remember, Peralta beat Anderson in St. Louis with a first inning home run. Carlos Martinez has struck out a career high 10 tonight. His previous high was 8. 2-2. This is the kind of a game you would expect with the Dodgers and Cardinals. Line drive right at PK. Well, Peralta hits it hard. 1 out in the 7th.
15.
Cardinals have 2 hits. Colton Wong with 1 out in the 3rd singled, and then Carpenter hit into a double play. Molina singled with 1 out in the 5th. Hayward hit into a force play. So here's Grichuk, flied to left, struck out, 0 for 2. Playing center field, John Jay played center last night. Ball 1. Grichuk 1 for 3 in the past against Anderson, and 0 for 2 tonight. Boy, that off-speed pitch with the same arm action, amazing how the big leaguers can do it. One and 2. Grichuk from Texas. He's 23 years old. He'll be 24 middle of August. So he's just starting out. And breaking balls take care of him. 5 strikeouts for Anderson. And with 2 out in the 7th, Mark Reynolds. Reynolds is a feast or famine hitter, especially in his heyday. I mean, he could hit the ball as far as anyone, but he also set a major league record of striking out. His second major league at bat back in '07, he hit a monster shot in Denver. This time a ground ball to short, so a very quick inning. That's 8 in a row retired by Anderson. And we're heading to the bottom of the 7th, 1-0 Dodgers. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by Nissan. Get to Nissan's ride of your life for exciting performance and surprising offers. Shop at ChooseNissan.com. And by DraftKings. Play daily fantasy baseball for free on DraftKings.com. Use promo code BLUECREW for free entry. Bottom of the seventh, 1-0 favor the Dodgers. Scott Schebler's leading off. Check swing, they'll look, no swing. And the count, 2 balls and no strikes. Schebler singled in his first at bat on the first pitch, struck out in the fourth. And he has the count his way now, 3-0. Schebler checking with Lorenzo. Martinez had retired 10 in a row, walked Gonzalez, and then struck out the side. So he has 10 strikeouts, but he's losing 1-0. Fastball in there. Three and one. And a drive into left center, coming in a hurry is Grichuk to pick it off. 1 out, 7th inning. Boy, that looks like a Gold Glove, doesn't it? Not the award-winning Gold Glove, but nevertheless, under the lights, it almost has a gold look to it. Here's Kike Hernandez. He singled to right and struck out. 1-4-2. Right. So Martinez could not look more like a different pitcher than if he suddenly started pitching left-handed. 0-2 the count. Behind on so many hitters in the first 2 innings, and then voila. But as brilliant as he has been pitching, Anderson is out pitching him 1-0. Carlos, by the way, is due to bat third when the Cardinals come up in the 8th inning. 1-2. High foul ball coming down the line is Reynolds. So we have 2 down here in the 7th, and Brett Anderson coming up.
Number 35, Brett Anderson.
So since the 2nd inning, the only Dodger to get on base was Gonzalez, who walked in the 6th. Anderson is not pitching as spectacular a game, but he's pitching a dandy, allowing just 2 hits. Ball 1. One and one. Two and one. Martinez now has made 98 pitches. They're probably thinking of hitting for him, and they get some action now in the Cardinal bullpen. Randy Choate, veteran left-hander. There he is. Two balls, 2 strikes. And got him. So that's 11 strikeouts for Carlos Martinez. Can't pitch much better than that, but he walks off at the end of 7, and it's the Dodgers leading 1-0. Game thus far, the Dodgers' only run came in the second inning when Jock Peterson walked with the bases loaded and 1 out. Martinez, brilliant, has struck out 11, a career high. However, Brett Anderson, minding his own business, going along quietly, has allowed just 2 hits while striking out 5. So it has been an old-fashioned pitching duel, and Martinez is definitely coming out. They'll hit for him. We saw Randy Choate throwing in the pen. So here is Yadier Molina. 1 for 2 and ball 1. Molina lined out to Schebler and single to left. Then it's Jason Hayward, and we'll see about a hitter. 2-0. Martinez, by the way, made exactly 100 pitches. And ball 3. Anderson walked Matt Holliday in the first inning, walked Reynolds in the second inning. And they're watching him carefully now as a breaking ball is ball 4. Rick Honeycutt was on the phone. Don Mattingly looking over at Monty Grandal. Wasn't quite sure about that ball 4, whether it was a strike or not. Adam Liebertor gets up in the Dodger bullpen. So the tying run aboard. Here's Hayward, struck out, hit into a force play. Pete Kozma beats an infielder running for Molina in the 8th inning. Kozma, K-O-Z-M-A. And ball 1. So somewhat of a distress signal now with Anderson. Tony Cruz on deck. Dodgers 1 run, 3 hits. Martinez still alive as far as winning or losing. Cardinals no runs, 2 hits. Hayward has struck out, hit into a force play. Off speed for a strike. 1-1. Hayward last night had 1 hit. He's hit 5 ground balls in the series, and now grounds 1 up the middle, but on it is Rollins. Can't feed Hernandez. Tried to make an almost impossible play, which really was the only play he had. Not much of a chance. Great save by Rollins. It'll go as a base hit. The point we were going to make with Hayward is the fact when he was with Atlanta, they felt that a big man with his power, he had too many balls on the ground. Well, he hits the second in the ground after hitting into a force play in the 5th inning. And now
Number 48, Tony Cruz.
Tony Cruz, a catcher, will come up and bat for Martinez. And then you have the leadoff man, Colton Wong. Down in the Dodger bullpen, Juan Nicasio has joined Adam Liebertor. Honeycutt holding 4th. Dodgers are certainly looking bunt. Tony Cruz, the catcher, does not have a sacrifice, but you would think he's up there to do just that against Anderson. So again, Carlos Martinez could still come up with a victory. Cruz appeared as a pinch hitter last night for Molina and struck out. Tonight the Dodgers look bunt. He gets it down. It's a beauty. Just close because Grandal didn't quite have a grip on it, had a double clutch, but he still got his man. So the sacrifice works, and the Cardinals now have runners at second and third with 1 out. Perfect bunt. And now Grandal will pick it up, and not quite ready. So then, after re-gripping, made the play. So 1 out, second and third. And here's Wong, grounded to short, single to center, struck out. Holden Wong came into the game batting .310. So Kozma and Hayward out there, and a ground foul on 1. 1 run, 3 hits for the Dodgers. No runs, 3 hits for the Cardinals in the 8th. Anderson has one big problem. Little chopper to Gonzalez. He has no play. The run scores. I think Adrian might have a play at first base. Take another look at that. That's a little bit of a surprise.
Third baseman Matt Carpenter.
We'll take a look. Ground ball to Gonzalez. Runners at second and third. There's the ground ball. Okay, you have a play at first. Adrian held on to the ball. Anderson's problem we were going to talk about, the fact he has 3 wild pitches. So a ground ball to first. And we have a tied up ball game. Not only that, first and third, they're going to give Wong a base hit. So now Martinez is off the hook. Now he's in line for a win. And of all people in the world, here's Matt Carpenter. Holden Wong has stolen 4 bases. He's also been caught 4. Hayward, coming down the line from third, has stolen 6 out of 7. So they have some speed out there at the corners just to complicate matters even more so for the Dodger defense. One of the things the Dodgers, and I'm sure they've already discussed it, what happens if Wong goes towards second? Do you throw through? Do you cut it off at the mound? They're not going to let Hayward come down and score on a play at second. And a fly ball to right. Tagging is Hayward. Efield doesn't have a play, so he wisely throws into second. And the Cardinals, one way or another, take a 2-1 lead as Carpenter comes up with the sacrifice fly.
Number 7, Matt Holliday.
So 2-1 St. Louis. Now Carlos Martinez, who is fit to be tied in the first 2 innings, is thrilled with life. Haywood brings in the go-ahead run. And now more bad news for Brett Anderson. Here comes Don Mattingly. So Anderson gets into the 8th inning. He pitched a tremendous game, but a walk started the downfall, as it usually does for most pitchers late in a 1-run game. So Brett Anderson walks off. It's 2-1 St. Louis. Nicasio is coming in, and we'll be right back. and done. The big question mark is why didn't Adrian Gonzalez make a play that he had? You're looking about a Gold Glove first baseman. If Adrian makes the play on the ground ball, Carpenter's fly ball is the third out. And it's a 1-1 tie. Here it is again now. Second and third. Here's the ground ball. Watch Hernandez. He's going to go to the bag to get a throw. But instead, Adrian just jogs towards the plate holding the ball. Hernandez is left holding the bag, literally and figuratively. And it's 2-1 St. Louis. Now Nicasio has to face Matt Holliday. And a tremendous effort by Brett Anderson might be going down the drain. One other note, just to make the Dodgers a little more uncomfortable. The Giants, remember, won. They defeated Philadelphia. So Anderson allowed 2 runs in St. Louis and lost. Should have allowed 1 run tonight. Matt Holliday. Now back. Holliday walked. Grounded to short, grounded to third, 0 for 2. Holliday with 274 career home runs. Holliday is vulnerable to the called strike 3. Matt, coming into the series, had 31 walks, and he walked his first time up. No balls, 1 strike. That's a strike. 0-2. Juan Nicasio in relief. 2 out. Holden Wong at first, held on by Gonzalez. The 2 pitchers involved watching every moment. And a little fly ball to Efield. Well, the 3rd out came 1 out too late. Carlos Martinez picks up 2 runs. Brett Anderson suffers another heartbreak, and we're heading now to the bottom of the 8th. 2-1 St. Louis. .com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball. At Bat is up to the moment at any moment with in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcasts, statcasts, and more. Get MLB.com at Bat for your smartphone or tablet. Tony Cruz, who got the bunt down in the 8th inning, stays in the game behind the plate. And the veteran left-hander Randy Choate coming in to try and get some outs. Randy Choate has been around. That's a euphemism for the fact that he started pitching as a pro in 1997. And if you remember, in 2012, he was in 36 games with the Dodgers. It seems like Randy's played for almost everybody. He was originally signed by the Yankees out of Florida State. Off speed for a strike. 0-1. Peterson struck out, walked to drive in the only run, and last time up grounded to short. High foul, out of play. No balls and 2 strikes to Jock Peterson. Randy Choate has been particularly effective against left-hand batters. Randy will be 40 September the 5th. 0-2. 1-2. How many teams? Well, let's see. The Yankees, the Diamondbacks, the Rays, the Marlins, the Dodgers, the Cardinals. So 6 big league clubs. 1-2. In there. So just like that, the veteran takes care of the kid. 1 out in the 8th inning. That means 12 Dodgers have struck out tonight. Martinez had 11, and Choate takes care of Peterson. Now, that'll do it. Choate got his man and walks off the field. Kevin Sechrist, another left-hander, down in the bullpen. You have Rollins, a switch hitter, and then Gonzalez, a left-hand hitter, and then Grandal will have to go back to right-handed. So they bring him in. Choate does his job. He's a miracle man at 40. We'll be right back. Is coming in. We saw him last night. He came in to pitch the 8th inning and gave up a double to Adrian Gonzalez. Well, Gonzalez will be the second man he'll face. First off, it'll be Jimmy Rollins. Rollins has grounded out, grounded into a double play, and hit back to the box. So Sechrist, one left-hander following another, but they're totally different pitchers. A 40-year-old Choate gets you out with his head. Sechrist throws hard. And ball 1. Two to 1 St. Louis, bottom of the 8th inning. Foul ball, and will go out of play. 1 ball and 1 strike. Kevin Seagrass, coming into the game last night, interestingly enough, was very tough on right-hand batters. Right-handers hitting just 185 and left-handers hitting 296. So when he came in last night, Grandal batted right-handed. He struck him out. Turner struck out, but the left-hand hitter Gonzalez doubled. That's on the inside corner. 1-2. So Seagrass throws at 93. Choate, a lot of off-speed stuff. Totally different pitchers, even though they are left-handed. Seagrass is 6'5" and is 25 years old. That's another big difference from Choate, who's 40. Fastball, 94. The paid attendance tonight, 44,649. 44,649. Tomorrow night, Jaime Garcia and Clayton Kershaw. Sunday at 5, Lance Lynn and Zach Greinke. And then Arizona will be here Monday. So Rollins hanging tough up there, still 1-2. Seagrass, nothing tricky about him. Fastball, curve, slider, and a change. They say his fastball has been clocked all the way up to 99. 1-2. There's a good fastball. Foul ball, no play. Two runs, 4 hits for the Cardinals, 1 run, 3 hits for the Dodgers. Cardinals have beaten the Dodgers 3 out of 4. The one Dodger victory, they won 5-1. They lost 3-1 and 3-1, and they're down to Mike Matheny 2-1 tonight. 1 ball, 2 strikes, as Jock Peterson thinks, having been struck out. Ground ball to short. Peralta. Nice stretch by Mark Reynolds. 2 down in the 8th inning. So now the numbers hold up, and they certainly held up last night. Seagrass gets the right-handers and has troubles with the left-handers. Well, last night he struck out the 2 right-handers and gave up a double to Adrian Gonzalez, the king of the doubles. Adrian has 21 of them. Ball 1. Colton Wong, a good 15 to 20 feet out in right field. Guarding the line at third is Carpenter. Guarding the line at first is Reynolds. They do not want to give up an extra base hit here. On deck, Yasmani Grandal. Two and 0. Well, Grandal, a switch hitter, has to tune up now, batting right-handed on deck. Two and 0. Fastball for a strike, and he hits 93. Another fastball hit to shallow left field. It's going to drop. So Gonzalez, a little dunker to left with 2 out. And again, the pattern is the same as last night and the same as it has been this year. Seagrass gets the right-hand batters and has trouble with the left-handers. Chris Heisey will now run for Gonzalez. So Heisey takes over as the runner.
Gets ready for Gonzalez.
And here's Grandal. And he now turns around to bat right-handed. Grandal hitting .267 right, .287 left. All 5 of his home runs hit left-handed. And that note we gave you at the start of the game, with Grandal, 4 of his 5 home runs he has hit in a game where he was catching Brett Anderson. Fastball, but missed. Grandal singled to center, struck out in the 3rd, and struck out in the 6th. You can see Cruz looking over towards Matheny for the moment. Change up for a strike. Oh, that was a good pitch. You were guessing on his delivery sitting up here. You'd have guessed fastball, and instead a straight change. 1 ball, 1 strike. And another one. That change was high. 2-1 to count. So Heisey, the tying run, running for Gonzalez. 2 out in the 8th inning. Fastball, fly ball. That's all it is. So for the Dodgers, and the pattern for Segrist, he gets the right-handers. The left-handers give him fits. Randy Choate took care of the first left-hander. And at the end of 8, 2-1 St. Louis. Cardinals. Chris Heisey, who ran for Adrian Gonzalez, stays in the game and plays left field. Justin Turner will take over at first base. He will go into Schebler's spot, and Juan Nicasio will try to get him out in the 9th inning after getting Matt Holliday to end the 8th. Segrist, by the way, made 15 pitches, and it'll be Johnny Peralta, 0 for 3. Grounded out, fly to right, and lined out to second base. Two runs, 4 hits for the Cardinals. 1 run, 4 hits for the Dodgers. Ball 1. Trevor Rosenthal, the closer, getting up now in the Cardinal bullpen. Rosenthal with 17 saves, and Peralta with a base hit up the middle.
Number 15.
Take another look at Peralta. Just drives it right up the middle. So Nicasio gives up a hit. Anderson was charged with 2 runs and 4 hits. Now Randall Grichuk starting in center field. Flied to left and struck out twice. And a fly ball into right center. Ethier's coming over with Peterson. Ethier for the catch. So 1 out. Peralta holding at first, and Mark Reynolds coming up. When the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 9th inning, they are due to be starting off with Andre Ethier, and then we'll see Callaspo and Turner and Hernandez. Dodgers have Alex Guerrero in the dugout and the backup catcher A.J. Ellis. So here's Reynolds, walk, grounded out twice, 0 for 2. Check swing. In the Dodger bullpen, Adam Liebertor tuning up. After Reynolds, Segrist is due up, so they'll have a hitter. Nice save, Randall. John Jay, who played center field last night, is on deck as a pinch hitter. Jay last night 1 for 4 with a base hit. One and 2. Reynolds late on that 93-mile-an-hour fastball, fouling it off to the right. A magnificent duel tonight. Brett Anderson and Carlos Martinez. And popped up, angling out is Kike. Coming in is Ethier. But it's Hernandez, and we have 2 down. So now Segrist is due up. John Jay is going to come up in bat form, and then we'll see Rosenthal in the 9th inning.
And hitting for the Cardinals, number 19, John Jay.
So John Jay coming up. Little meeting on the mound. Grandal talking to Nicasio. Rick Honeycutt on the phone to the bullpen while Liebertor is throwing should they need him. So John Jay, a good all-around athlete, hit .301 last year. He made his debut in 2010, and in his career, he's a .295 hitter. 0-1. Jay is 30 years old, out of Miami, Florida. He was another left-handed hitter who gave the Dodgers a headache against left-hand pitches during the championship playoff. He was 5 for 9 against the Dodger left-handers. 1-1 the count to John Jay. Jason Hayward on deck. And a ground ball up the middle. Rollins behind the bag. Gets it there in time. Good stretch by Justin Turner. All right, no runs, a leadoff single and nothing else. And we are heading to the bottom of the 9th inning. Cardinals 2, Dodgers 1. Two to 1, and they give the ball to their closer, Trevor Rosenthal. Rosenthal with 17 saves coming in. Rosenthal last year shut the Dodgers down completely in the league championship series. He was originally a shortstop, and there have been several pretty famous relievers who started their careers at another position. The great Trevor Hoffman in San Diego, he was a shortstop. Troy Percival, remember Troy with the Angels, he was a catcher. Joe Nathan was a shortstop. And of course, with the Dodgers, Kenley Jansen was a catcher. So Rosenthal facing Andre Ethier, followed by Alberto Callaspo, and then Justin Turner. Ethier lined out to right and struck out twice against Martinez. Fastball for a strike, 0-1. 97 miles an hour. That's what Rosenthal did during the division series. He would come in and always start with a 97, 98 mile an hour fastball, as if to say hello. He has a curveball, a cutter, and a changeup. And another strike at 97. Once upon a time, I don't know if it's happened now, but wasn't long ago, Rosenthal was clocked as high as 101 with the four-seamer. He's 6'2", 190, and he's only 25 years old. And Ethier totally mismatched on that 99 mile an hour pitch. Not only the velocity, but the location. So Ethier goes down, striking out 3 times tonight. Alex Guerrero, take a look at the location down there, and that's one of those waved at as it went by. 13 Dodgers have struck out. Alex Guerrero is now going to bat for Callaspo, and then Justin Turner. Ball 1. Guerrero 10 home runs, 26 runs batted in. Tough ball game to win, tough ball game to lose, and of course for the Dodgers, they know full well the Giants already won in Philadelphia. A loss tonight, the Dodger lead would be a half a game. 2 balls and no strikes. In there, 98 miles an hour. Trevor Rosenthal out of Lee Summit, Missouri. He was selected by the Cardinals in the 21st round. 2-1. Wow, was he ever 99 again? Take another look if you can see a 99-mile-an-hour fastball, only because of the magnificence of the lenses. 2-2. The other thing is you're sitting in the dugout and they say go get a bat and go up and hit against him. Got him. Guerrero just scaring the plate umpire Dan Asanya before walking away. So Rosenthal strikes out 2. 14 Dodgers have struck out, and look at that. I mean, that zapped the strike zone. So now Justin Turner finishing up at first base, and this is his first at bat of the night. Two runs, 5 hits for the Cardinals, 1 run, 4 hits for the Dodgers. That was the changeup at 82. And threw it for a strike. Well, tomorrow night, Clayton Kershaw front and center against the Cardinals and Jaime Garcia. Wow. He went from 84 to 98, and it's a 1-ball, 1-strike count. One and one. Fastball hit late and foul. No play for Hayward. So the Dodgers are down to their last strike. Dodgers have 4 hits tonight. Gonzalez, Grandal, Schebler, and Hernandez. All singles. And the run was produced when Peterson walked with the bases loaded. To right field, Hayward coming up and picks it off, and that's it. The Dodgers lose 4 out of 5 now to the St. Louis Cardinals. Their lead has been cut to a half a game, and the Dodgers, counting the loss to Atlanta, have now lost 3 straight at home. The first time that's happened since August of last year when they were swept by Milwaukee. The play that will be discussed, and it should be, occurred in the 8th inning. There were runners at second and third. Wong hit a chopper. Gonzalez has a play at first, but instead in his mind he had no play. Not only did the tying run score, but then the fly ball by Carpenter that would have been the 3rd out suddenly became a sacrifice fly. And because of that, the Cardinals win it. The winning pitcher is Carlos Martinez. He is 6-2. The heartbreaking loss to Brett Anderson. He's 2-4. Tomorrow night, Clayton Kershaw will talk to you then. Till then, we wish you all a very pleasant good night, everybody.